What if I told you that some of history's greatest conquerors shared more than just a desire for power? They also shared a common fate and a surprising connection. Today, we'll delve into the meteoric rise and tragic fall of four legendary leaders: Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, and Napoleon Bonaparte. Each of these men built empires that stretched across continents, transforming the world in profound ways. Yet, despite their unmatched brilliance, they all met dramatic and sudden downfalls. But there's more to their stories than just conquest and defeat. Stick around until the end, where we'll reveal how Julius Caesar and Napoleon were deeply influenced by the same conqueror, who had a profound impact on their own visions of greatness. Born in 356 BCE in the Macedonian city of Pella, Alexander was destined for greatness from the start. His father, King Philip II, had already transformed Macedonia into a powerful military state, but it was Alexander who would extend its reach far beyond anyone's imagination. Educated by Aristotle, the young Alexander developed a passion for philosophy, science, and the arts, alongside his formidable military training. When Philip was assassinated in 336 BCE, Alexander, just 20 years old, ascended to the throne and swiftly consolidated power by quelling rebellions in Greece, establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with. With his position secure, Alexander turned his attention to the Persian Empire, the greatest superpower of the ancient world. In 334 BCE, he launched his audacious campaign to conquer Persia, leading an army of 40,000 men across the Hellespont into Asia Minor. His early victories, such as the Battle of Granicus, showcased his tactical brilliance and set the stage for what would become one of the most extraordinary military campaigns in history. At the Battle of Issus in 333 BCE, he faced the Persian king Darius III for the first time. Despite being vastly outnumbered, Alexander's strategic use of terrain and his daring assault forced Darius to flee, solidifying his reputation as a military genius. Turning south, Alexander was welcomed into Egypt as a liberator. There, he founded the city of Alexandria, which would become a center of learning and culture for centuries. But it was the decisive Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BCE that truly cemented his legacy. Against overwhelming odds, Alexander led his forces to victory, effectively ending the Persian Empire and making him the ruler of a vast territory stretching from Greece to Egypt and into Central Asia. By the age of 30, Alexander was not only a conqueror, but also a visionary who sought to merge Greek and Eastern cultures into a single, unified empire. However, his relentless ambition would soon lead him into perilous waters. Alexander's quest for conquest did not end with the fall of Persia. Driven by an insatiable ambition to reach the ends of the world, he pushed further east into the unknown territories of India. In 326 BCE, he faced one of his most challenging battles against King Porus at the Battle of the Hydaspes River. The fierce resistance, combined with the use of war elephants, tested Alexander's leadership like never before. Although he emerged victorious, the battle came at a great cost. His troops, exhausted from years of relentless campaigning, began to lose their resolve. They had marched thousands of miles from their homes and now faced a seemingly endless struggle in unfamiliar lands. When Alexander proposed continuing deeper into India, his men, for the first time, openly refused. Standing on the banks of the Hydaspes River, they implored their king to turn back. Realizing that pushing forward without the support of his army would be futile, Alexander reluctantly agreed to return. The journey back to Persia was fraught with hardships. Alexander chose a perilous route through the Gedrosian desert, where his army suffered massive losses from heat, starvation, and dehydration. This decision, driven perhaps by his frustration at the limits imposed on his ambition, almost destroyed the army he had led to so many victories. Returning to Babylon in 323 BCE, Alexander began planning new conquests, including an invasion of Arabia. But his health was failing. After a night of heavy drinking, he fell seriously ill and within days was bedridden. At just 32 years old, Alexander died, possibly from typhoid fever, malaria, or poisoning. Historians still debate the exact cause. His death plunged his empire into chaos. With no clear successor, his generals, known as the Diadochi, divided his vast territories among themselves, leading to decades of conflict and the eventual disintegration of the empire he had built. Alexander's vision of a unified world was never realized, and his story remains a powerful reminder that even the greatest of ambitions must confront the limitations of mortality and human nature. Julius Caesar's rise to power is a tale of political genius, military prowess, and sheer audacity. Born in 100 BCE into a patrician family, Caesar quickly became involved in the political machinations of Rome, a city embroiled in conflict between the Senate and populist forces. Early in his career, Caesar was almost destroyed by the dictator Sulla's purges, but he survived and rebuilt his political connections. His true rise began with his election as Pontifex Maximus and later as consul in 59 BCE, positions he used to pass laws that gained him the favor of the Roman people. Caesar's strategic brilliance shone during his military campaigns in Gaul, modern-day France, which he began in 58 BCE. Over the next 8 years, he not only subdued the Gallic tribes, but also expanded Roman territory significantly. His detailed accounts of these campaigns, written in his Commentarii de Bello Gallico, served both as propaganda and a justification for his actions, bolstering his popularity back in Rome. By the end of the Gallic Wars, Caesar had amassed immense wealth, the loyalty of his legions, and a reputation as one of Rome's greatest generals. However, his rising power and influence worried his political rivals, particularly his former ally Pompey. The tension between Caesar and the Senate came to a head in 49 BCE when they ordered him to disband his army and return to Rome as a private citizen. Knowing this would likely lead to his arrest or assassination, Caesar made the momentous decision to cross the Rubicon River, an act of war that plunged Rome into civil conflict. His famous declaration, Alea iacta est, or the die is cast, symbolized his irrevocable commitment to challenging the authority of the Senate. Within a year, he had defeated Pompey's forces in Italy and pursued him to Greece, ultimately crushing his rival at the Battle of Pharsalus. Caesar's victory in the Civil War left him as the uncontested ruler of Rome, paving the way for his appointment as dictator for life. Caesar's ascent to power, while swift and decisive, sowed the seeds of his downfall. As dictator, he initiated a series of reforms aimed at strengthening and stabilizing Rome. He expanded the Senate, reformed the calendar into what we now know as the Julian calendar, and granted citizenship to many people in far-flung provinces. While these changes were popular among the common people and helped consolidate his power, they alarmed the traditional Roman elite. His increasing concentration of authority and his acceptance of honors traditionally reserved for kings fueled fears that he intended to dismantle the Republic and declare himself king. In February of 44 BCE, Caesar was appointed Dictator Perpetuo, dictator for life. This unprecedented move coupled with his rumored plans to expand the empire further, triggered a conspiracy among several senators. Led by Gaius Cassius and Marcus Junius Brutus, men Caesar had once considered allies. The conspirators believed that his assassination was the only way to save the Republic. On the Ides of March, March 15th, 44 BCE, Caesar was lured to a meeting in the Senate where he was surrounded and stabbed 23 times. His final words, according to legend, were "Et tu, Brute?", a poignant expression of shock and betrayal upon seeing Brutus among his assassins. Caesar's death plunged Rome into chaos. Instead of restoring the Republic, his assassination led to a power struggle among his supporters and opponents, resulting in another round of civil wars. The power vacuum left by his death was filled by his grandnephew and adopted heir, Octavian, who would become Rome's first emperor, Augustus. Caesar's assassination marked the end of the Roman Republic and the birth of the Roman Empire. His downfall, like his rise, was swift and dramatic, showing how the very ambition that had propelled him to greatness also made him a target for those who feared his power. Genghis Khan, born Temujin around 1162, emerged from the brutal steppes of Mongolia to become one of history's most formidable conquerors. His early life was fraught with hardship. After his father, a minor tribal leader, was poisoned by rivals, Temujin's family was abandoned by their clan, left to struggle for survival. These formative years, marked by betrayal and violence, forged a man of extraordinary resilience and determination. As a young man, Temujin faced captivity and near-death experiences, but he managed to escape and gradually built a small but loyal group of followers. His rise to power truly began in 1206, when he united the fractious Mongol tribes under his rule, taking the title Genghis Khan, meaning universal ruler. He established a strict meritocratic system where loyalty and skill were rewarded over traditional tribal affiliations. This revolutionary approach created a highly disciplined and effective military force that was fiercely loyal to him. With his newly unified army, Genghis Khan set his sights on the rich and powerful Jin dynasty in northern China. His campaigns against the Jin were marked by strategic brilliance and ruthless efficiency, as he employed innovative siege tactics and psychological warfare to capture city after city. Genghis Khan's conquests soon extended westward, reaching into Central Asia and beyond. His campaign against the Khwarezmian Empire in 1219 was a masterpiece of military strategy. Provoked by the execution of his envoys, Genghis Khan unleashed his full fury on the empire, obliterating its cities and leaving a path of destruction in his wake. By the time of his death in 1247, Genghis Khan had created the largest contiguous empire the world had ever seen, stretching from the Pacific Ocean to the Caspian Sea. His conquests laid the foundation for the Mongol Empire, which would continue to expand under his descendants, reshaping the political and cultural landscape of Eurasia. His rise from outcast to the ruler of an empire is one of history's most remarkable stories, showcasing his unparalleled military genius and unbreakable will. While Genghis Khan himself did not experience a dramatic downfall in his lifetime, the seeds of future instability were sown during his reign. His empire, though vast and powerful, was held together by his personal authority and the loyalty he commanded. As he pushed further into the lands of the Western Jia in 1246, Genghis Khan's health began to fail. The exact circumstances of his death in 1227 are still shrouded in mystery. Some sources suggest he died from injuries sustained after falling from his horse, while others propose he succumbed to an illness. According to legend, his final campaign was motivated by revenge against the Western Jia, who had refused to support him in his earlier wars. Before his death, Genghis Khan took measures to ensure the secrecy of his burial, ordering that his body be returned to Mongolia and buried in an unmarked grave. His tomb's location remains one of history's great mysteries, with all those who accompanied the funeral procession allegedly executed to maintain its secrecy. Despite his efforts to secure his legacy, his death marked the beginning of the Mongol Empire's fragmentation. His vast territory was divided among his sons and grandsons, each inheriting a khanate to rule. This division led to infighting and power struggles that weakened the unity of the empire. Under his successor, Genghis Khan, the empire continued to expand, reaching its greatest extent under his grandson, Kublai Khan, who established the Yuan dynasty in China. However, without Genghis Khan's unifying presence, the Mongols faced increasing difficulties in maintaining control over such a vast and diverse realm. The Mongol Empire eventually fragmented into 4 distinct khanates, each pursuing its own interests. Although Genghis Khan's legacy as a conqueror remained intact, the unity and stability of the empire he had built was short-lived. His death highlighted the inherent challenge of ruling such a sprawling and diverse empire, showing that even the mightiest of conquerors cannot transcend the limits imposed by time and human nature. Napoleon Bonaparte was born in 1769 on the Mediterranean island of Corsica, just a year after it had been ceded to France by the Republic of Genoa. Although of minor nobility, his family's financial situation was modest, and Napoleon faced prejudice as a Corsican outsider when he attended military school in mainland France. However, his exceptional talents soon set him apart. He graduated from the École Militaire in Paris as a young artillery officer, just as the French Revolution was beginning to upend the country's political landscape. Napoleon's first major break came in 1793 during the siege of Toulon. He devised a successful strategy to recapture the city from royalist forces, earning a promotion to brigadier general at just 24. His star continued to rise, and in 1795, he suppressed a royalist uprising in Paris with a whiff of grape shot, a decisive action that solidified his reputation as a savior of the revolution. The following year, he was given command of the French army of Italy, where his tactical brilliance and charismatic leadership led to a series of stunning victories against the Austrians. His innovative use of rapid maneuvers and his ability to inspire his troops made him a legend. Napoleon's campaign in Italy not only expanded French territory, but also filled the state's coffers with loot and secured his position as one of France's foremost military leaders. His success in Italy paved the way for the ambitious Egyptian campaign in 1798. Although the campaign ultimately failed, with his fleet destroyed by the British at the Battle of the Nile, Napoleon managed to spin his return to France as a triumph. Sensing the growing unpopularity of the government, he staged a coup d'etat in 1799, overthrowing the Directory and establishing himself as first consul. Just 5 years later, in 1804, he crowned himself Emperor of the French, transforming the Republic into an empire and setting the stage for a series of wars that would reshape Europe. Napoleon's reign as emperor was marked by a series of brilliant military campaigns that extended his influence across Europe. However, his insatiable ambition led him to overreach. In 1806, he implemented the Continental System, an economic blockade intended to cripple Britain by prohibiting European nations from trading with the island. The policy backfired, causing economic strain across the continent and fueling resentment among his allies. Resistance to French domination grew, most notably in Spain, where a brutal guerrilla war drained French resources and morale. In 1812, Napoleon made the fateful decision to invade Russia, assembling the Grande Armée, an enormous force of over 600,000 men, drawn from across his empire. The campaign began well, but the Russians adopted a scorched earth policy, destroying their own villages and resources to deny the French any supplies. When Napoleon reached Moscow, he found the city abandoned and burning, with no sign of a Russian surrender. As winter approached and his supply lines stretched thin, he was forced to order a retreat. The harsh Russian winter, along with constant attacks by Russian forces, decimated his army. By the time they crossed back into friendly territory, fewer than 100,000 men remained. The disaster in Russia shattered Napoleon's aura of invincibility and emboldened his enemies. In 1813, the Sixth Coalition, comprising Britain, Russia, Prussia, Austria, and Sweden, mobilized against him. Despite a series of hard-fought battles, Napoleon's weakened forces were overwhelmed at the Battle of Leipzig. By early 1814, the Allies had entered Paris, and Napoleon was forced to abdicate. He was exiled to the island of Elba, a small territory off the Italian coast. Astonishingly, Napoleon escaped Elba in 1815 and returned to France, rallying the nation in a dramatic comeback known as the 100 Days. However, his return to power was brief. At the Battle of Waterloo in June 1815, he faced a combined British and Prussian force under the Duke of Wellington. Despite his tactical brilliance, he was decisively defeated. Captured once more, Napoleon was exiled to the remote island of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, where he spent the last 6 years of his life in isolation. He died in 1821, a prisoner far from the continent he had once dominated. Napoleon's dramatic rise and fall illustrate how even the most brilliant and powerful leaders can be undone by overreach and miscalculation. The stories of Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar, Genghis Khan, and Napoleon Bonaparte are not only tales of extraordinary conquests, but also poignant reminders of the limits of human ambition. Each of these men transformed the world in his own way, but all were ultimately brought down by the very forces they sought to control. And now, for the promised connection, both Julius Caesar and Napoleon Bonaparte were profoundly influenced by Alexander the Great. Caesar, despite his immense accomplishments, felt he had not measured up to Alexander's legacy, famously lamenting that he had achieved so little by the same age. Napoleon, too, studied Alexander's campaigns meticulously and even visited his tomb in Alexandria, seeking inspiration from the legendary king. Their admiration for Alexander drove both Caesar and Napoleon to attempt feats of conquest and power consolidation that, in the end, mirrored the Macedonian king's overreach and downfall. Thank you for joining us on this captivating journey through the lives and legacies of history's greatest conquerors. If you enjoyed this exploration of ambition and destiny, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to Armchair Archaeology for more deep dives into history's most compelling stories. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. And we'd love to hear from you. Who's your favorite historical figure? And what era would you like us to explore next? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until our next journey, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the spirit of discovery alive.